Okay. So welcome councillors, our Chief Executive Officer, General Managers, Executive Staff and those tuning in live stream to our ordinary meeting of Council for the 26th of May 2020. There is no apologies for today, but I'd first like to move into acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that we meet here today, both past, present and emerging. And would also, as a council and as a community, acknowledge those Australians that have given the ultimate sacrifice and their families in the service of our great country. The minutes from the last meeting, the first item of business is item B1, the confirmation of the minutes. So I now move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting of council held on the 29th of April and the special meeting held on the 20th of May 2020 be taken as read and confirmed. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Bill Trevor. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item C1. It's a declaration of material personal interest or conflicts of interest. So I now invite councillors to declare any conflict of interest or material personal interest in any items to be discussed at today's meeting. Councillor Bartel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in item T10. The reason for the perceived conflict of interest is that my wife is a non-executive employee of the proposed tenant.
Thank you, Councillor Bartel. So, pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed by Councillor Bartel of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Bartel will you be leaving the room, Councillor Bartel? You'll be staying, that's right?
I wish to stay in the room and vote on the matter.
You stay in the room and vote on the matter. Our councillors now must decide whether Councillor Bartel has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I have a show of hands of those councillors who determine there is a conflict of interest? No. Now the councillors must determine whether Councillor Bartel must leave the meeting and stay away while the other matter is voted on, or Councillor Bartel may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. So with those two in mind, can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Bartel must leave the meeting? Those who determine those who now determine Councillor Bartel should stay. The council has determined that Councillor Bartel will stay in the meeting as per the vote. Okay. Next conflict of interest is two items. Councillor Trevor. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare a real conflict of interest in L1 on the under pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009. I wish to inform the meeting that I have a real conflict of interest in L1. The nature of the conflict is that I am a shareholder and my wife in ISA Central Sugar Mill, who are an objector to this development assessment L1, and I will declare the interest and be leaving the room. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. We'll deal with that one first. As Councillor Trevor has identified in relation to L1, his type of conflict and that he will be leaving the room, there is no need to vote on that matter. Councillor Trevor, the next item. I declare a perceived conflict of interest in T7 under 175E of the Local Government Act 2009 in that I recently held a lease which has now ended. That gave me access physical and legally to a Sunwater outlet, even though the lease has been determined, and I no longer have legal or physical access to that. Because of the short period of time since the lease finished, I will declare a perceived conflict of interest and leave the room. Thank you, Councillor Trevor. As Councillor Trevor has indicated his type of conflict and that he will be leaving in the room, there is no need to vote on that particular matter. The next item is continued on is Councillor Honour.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a real conflict of interest Actually, Mr Mayor, I'll change that. Pursuant to section 175C of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have material personal interest in the matter of T3 in regards to having a live development application of a similar kind before council, and now I wish to state that I will be leaving the meeting room and not taking part in voting or discussion on the matter.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. As Councillor Honour has identified in this particular item his type of conflict and that he will be leaving the room, there is no need to vote on that particular matter. Councillor Honour, in relation to other following items.
Yes, Mr Mayor, in relation to the item T7 pursuant to section 175C of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a material personal interest in the matter, in that I have a water allocation from Sunwater which could affect my decision making in this regard. So I wish to declare that I will be leaving the meeting room and not taking part in this discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Honour. As Councillor Honour has indicated his conflict and that he will be leaving the room in relation to that matter, there is no need to vote in relation to that. Next, Councillor McPhee.
Thank you. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a real conflict of interest in item D1, reinstatement of regulated parking. The nature of the conflict of interest is that during the election I signed a petition to reinstate regulated parking, and I also own businesses within the CBD. Having stated this conflict of interest, I'm going to leave the room and won't be voting on it.
Thank you, Councillor McPhee. As Councillor McPhee has indicated the type of conflict and that she'll be leaving the room, there is no need to vote in relation to that matter. The next conflict I call Councillor Haberman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 175 of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in the item R1. The nature of the conflict of interest is I'm a life member of Brothers Sports Club, Bundaberg Cricket Association, Brothers Cricket Club and Diggers Football Club, and also a voluntary QRL reporter for the Bundaberg Rugby League. However, having stated this interest, I believe I can participate and vote in the matter.
Thank you. Okay, so the first things there is we have to satisfy the criteria in relation to 175, as Councillor Haberman has identified a perceived conflict and chose to stay in the room. So pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed of a real or a perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Haberman has not voluntarily left the meeting. Other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Haberman has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I have a show of hands of those councillors who determined there is a conflict of matter? Now that the councillors have determined that, then the councillors must now determine whether Councillor Haberman must leave the meeting room and stay away while the matter is voted on, and whether Councillor Haberman may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. So can I have a show of hands? So a show of hands from those councillors who determine that Councillor must leave the meeting. No. Those that determine Councillor Haberman should stay. As is determined that Councillor Haberman must stay, he's able to stay in the matter, and there is a majority vote. Thanks, Councillor Haberman. The next matter is Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to sections 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest The nature of that conflict is that I am a member of Torowal Cyclists Incorporated. Having read this conflict, I believe that I can participate and vote on this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Councillor Mitchell has identified the type of conflict and that she'll be staying in the room. Now pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the Council has been informed of the real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor Mitchell has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Mitchell has a real or perceived conflict of interest in the matter. Can I have a show of hands for those councillors determined there is a conflict of interest? No. Now that councillors now must determine whether Councillor Mitchell must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor Mitchell may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Mitchell must leave the meeting? No. For those that determine Councillor Mitchell should stay? Now that Council has determined Councillor now by way of votes that Councillor Mitchell will stay. Okay. Now, before moving on to the other items that are on the actual agenda of the meeting, is there any other conflicts identified? I'll just go around the room, or any other conflicts that other councillors may identify in relation to any other councillors. So I'll just go around. Councillor Learmont, Councillor Mitchell, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Haberman, Councillor Lachlan, Councillor Barnes, Councillor McPhee, Councillor Honour, Councillor Trevor, and Councillor Bartel.
Not that I'm aware of.
That's it. So we'll now move on to the items before us here today. The next three items are in the Executive Services section. It's item D1 in relation to regulated parking. I call Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council recommend enforcing regulated parking.
So, hold on, Councillor Mitchell. I just have to inform the room, as everyone can see, Councillor McPhee's leaving the room. Yeah, so, sorry, Councillor Mitchell. Yeah.
That's all right, thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mayor.
Sorry, correct.
I move that council recommence enforcing regulated parking within the Bundaberg local government area from 1st of June 2020, and that suitable advertising and promotion be carried out.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Bartel. Councillor Mitchell, do you wish to speak any further in relation to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Mitchell. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Unanimously. I'll just do that again. All those in favour? Those against? No. Thank you, and so moved. I'll just wait till Councillor McPhee returns to the room. The next item of business is item D2. In the planning area, there is a motion from the floor. I call Councillor Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, I wish to move a procedural motion in relation to this item. That this item be left to lie on the table to a future ordinary meeting of council to enable all councillors, including those newly elected, to consider the independent review of the development group as referred to in the attached report regarding change delegations for development approvals and as presented to the council in January 2019.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Councillor Barnes has advised that the matter lay on the table. There is no need for a seconder in relation to that. However, there is a need for a vote. So all those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item D3. It's appointment of committees and bodies. And I now move that council representatives to the following council and community organisations be as follows. Fleet Management Advisory Committee, Councillor Trevor and Councillor Honour. IS Steering Advisory Committee, Councillor Cooper. Regional Arts Development Fund Committee, Councillor Learmont. Gallery Art Acquisition Committee, Councillor Learmont. Bundaberg Landfill Facility Community Consultation Group, Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Honour. Bundaberg Region Cycling Action Advisory Group, Councillor Haberman, Councillor Mitchell and Councillor Honour. That includes the amended terms of references as per attached. Also, Bundaberg Regional Sport and Recreation Advisory Group, Councillor Haberman. Bundaberg Region Water Safety Advisory Group, Councillor Honour. Community Conservation Advisory Committee, Councillor Honour and Councillor McLaughlin. Bundaberg Region Inclusive Communities Advisory Committee, Councillor McPhee. Wide Bay Burnett Region of Council, Councillor Dempsey and Councillor Trevor. Wide Bay Burnett Regional Roads and Transport Group, Councillor Trevor and Councillor Dempsey and Councillor Trevor. Councillor Coastal Burnett Groundwater Advisory Area Advisory Committee, Councillor Trevor and Councillor Bartels. Traffic Advisory Committee, Councillor Trevor and Councillor Learmont. Wide Bay Burnett Regional Planning Committee, Councillor Dempsey. Bundaberg Irrigators Advisory Committee, Councillor Bartels and Councillor Trevor and Councillor Honour as a proxy in that particular committee. Public Safety Consultative Committee, an advisory committee of the Bundaberg Safe Night Out Precinct Incorporated, Councillor McPhee. Reef Guardian Council, Councillor McLaughlin and Councillor Honour. Local Disaster Management Group, Councillor Dempsey and Councillor Barnes. And the Audit and Risk Committee is Councillor Dempsey and Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Haberman. All those in... Sorry, before that, anyone who wish to raise any queries in relation to this matter? No. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is in relation to fees and charges. I call Councillor Cooper.
Good morning, Mr Mayor and councillors and the audience on live stream and our staff, of course. The Council's 2020-21 fees and charges as detailed in the fees and charges register appended to this report be adopted by the Council to take effect from the 1st of July 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Bartels. Councillor Cooper used to speak further in relation to this matter, the motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. Fees and charges are determined by Council in accordance with section 97 and 262 of the Local Government Act 2009. Council's 2020-21 fees and charges register has been revised and is attached for consideration. The fees and charges have generally been increased by approximately 2.5%. Some fees and charges have been rounded up to promote administrative efficiencies and ease of application. Council's register of fees and charges comprises of a cost recovery section which contains fees and for services of regulatory nature which generally only Council can provide, and a commercial section which comprises services with the community services which the community is not obliged to obtain from Council. Both sets of fees and charges are divided into departments and sections and are numbered accordingly to facilitate administrative efficiencies and ease of use. Section 97 in brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 2009 provides that Council cannot charge more than the cost recovery for services than the cost of the service, and therefore 2.5 increases to fees reflected in the increase of the cost to Council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any council wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? Councillor Barnes.
Just a question, Mr Mayor, through you to the CEO.
Yep.
If at any time we want to revise any of these fees and charges, we can do so by resolution, Council?
Yeah, I can answer that one, Councillor Barnes. As we've stated on a number of occasions, we bring anything before Council at any given time.
Thank you.
Thank you. So all those put to any other queries or questions in relation to the matter? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. Item F2 is a financial summary for as of May 2020. Can I have Councillor Cooper, please?
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. That the financial summary as of the 1st of May 2020 be noted by the Council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor McPhee. Councillor Cooper used to speak further in relation to the motion.
Thanks again, Mr Mayor. In accordance with section 204 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, a financial report must be presented to the council on a monthly basis. The attached financial report contains the financial summary and associated commentary as at the 1st of May 2020.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Any other councillor wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. The next item of business is organisational structure. And I just remind councillors, if there is any conflicts that are identified, please, address it as quickly as possible. Organisational structure, call Councillor Cooper.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. This is quite lengthy in part. So the council, rescind the following policies. I won't read them all, they will be on the screen.
Sorry, Councillor.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. One, it's the item G1, organisational structure. Yeah. Preliminary report.
Maybe.
Just advise Councillor Cooper.
It says L1 on mine.
Eh?
Yeah, it says G1. G1.
So,
We've already discussed
that the original structure?
Yeah, thanks.
Is that the one? Okay,
Correct.
that's G2 on mine, I'm sorry.
That's all
That
right.
the original structure as at the 1st of May 2020 be adopted by council.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder, please? Second, Councillor Barnes. Or wish to speak further in relation to the item you have presented,
Thank
Councillor
you.
Cooper?
Pursuant to section 196 of the Local Government Act 2009, council is required to adopt the organisation structure that is appropriate to the performance of the local government responsibilities.
Thanks, Councillor Cooper. Any queries or questions in relation to the matter? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. The next item now is G2 in relation to policy review. Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
So happy to relate to that. My comments are the same as before. The first part of it is the rescinding of the following policies. Those policies are listed for people to view. Part 2 is to adopt the following policies. Acceptable Request Guidelines Policy Version 5, Administrative Action Compliance Policy Version 2, Advertising Spending Policy Version 2, Buy Local Policy Version 3, Community Engagement Policy Version 2, Compliance about the Chief Executive Officer Version 2, Council Vehicle Usage Policy Version 3, Council Compliance Investigation Policy Version 2, Council's Portfolio Policy Version 1, Council's Use of Confidential Information Policy Version 2, Expenses Remuneration Reimbursement for Council's Policy Version 3, Fraud and Corruption Management Policy Version 3, Gifts and Benefits Policy Version 2, Hardship Policy Version 3, Media Relations Policy Version 2, Planning Protocol Policy Version 1, Procurement Policy Version 2, Public Interest Disclosure Policy Version 4, Revenue Policy Version 3 and Risk Management Policy Version 2. Part 3, Endorse the Employee Code of Conduct Version 1.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Can I have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Learmont. Any councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion?
Just notes.
Sorry, Councillor Barnes.
Yeah, sorry, I just note that rather than compliance, about the Chief Executive Officer or compliance, the councillors, there should be complaints.
Complaint, sorry.
Yeah, by way of clarification.
Hang on.
Yep, okay. So, thanks, Councillor Barnes. Any other councillors wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. The next item of business is from planning area. It's a reconfiguration of a lot for subdivision, one lot into 7 lots for 50 CSR Depot Road Childers, and I now move. Thanks, Councillor Trevor. So just note, Councillor Trevor is leaving the room in relation to a conflict matter. So I now move that the application be approved with conditions as outlined in the report. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. Any councillors do you wish to raise any queries or speak against the motion? No. All those in favour? Those against? No. So moved. Let's wait till Councillor Trevor returns from the room. The next item of business is item R1. It's the COVID-19 economic stimulus package for community sport support program. I call Councillor Haberman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move that the council adopt the COVID-19 community sport support program, a copy of which is attached, and allocate a budget of up to $200,000 in the 2021 financial year in support of the program to provide financial assistance to local sporting organisations.
Thank you, Councillor Haberman. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Haberman, do you wish to speak further in relation to the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor. The background to this one is the council resolved at its special ordinary meeting dated 24th March 2020 the COVID-19 economic stimulus package that included item K, an assistance package for sporting clubs and community organisations through a grants program. Council recognises the important role that community sporting organisations play in our local community, and as a result, Council has committed to support and assist these organisations with the targeted grants program. Bundaberg Regional Council and Queensland Government Sport and Recreation Services Local Advisor received feedback from a number of regional-based sporting organisations with the following top 3 concerns. 1, the financial stress, loss of income, reduced membership, fundraising, canteen, sponsorship and events. 2, the difficulty of maintaining their grounds and facilities, reduced volunteer assistance and ongoing costs. And 3, recovery, whether members and volunteers will return. These concerns have also been supported in the recent National Good Sport Survey that found the biggest worries are financial security, especially for smaller clubs, and keeping members and volunteers engaged. The COVID-19 Community Sport Support Program is proposed to provide financial assistance to eligible community sporting organisations that are either experiencing financial hardship as a result of COVID-19 related service disruptions or seeking to establish alternate service delivery models for their organisation's continuity. The Community Sport Support Grant Program proposes a budget allocation of $200,000, which would potentially support 40 plus sporting organisations in our region, and a typical draft of the proposed COVID-19 Community Sport Grant Program has been provided.
Thank you, Councillor Haberman. Before continuing any further, I've just been notified by Councillor McLaughlin that she may have a perceived conflict in relation to this matter. I call Councillor McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest. The nature of the conflict of interest is that my husband is secretary of Diggers Football Club. And that I would like to stay in the room as I perceive this as a perceived conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. As Councillor McLaughlin has identified a perceived conflict of interest in relation to her husband being secretary of the Diggers Soccer Club, I now move that pursuant to section 175E of the Act, Council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest, and Councillor McLaughlin has not voluntarily left the room. The other councillors must decide whether Councillor McLaughlin has a real or perceived conflict of interest in this matter. Can I have a show of hands of those councillors who determine there is a conflict of interest? Okay. Now the councillors must decide whether...
Excuse me, Mr Mayor.
Sorry, councillor
I
Learmont.
think I could be in.
All right, well, I'll address this one first, yeah. So now the councillors must decide whether Councillor McLaughlin must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor McLaughlin may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. So can I have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor McLaughlin must leave the meeting? Okay. Those that determine Councillor McLaughlin should stay. Okay, the council, all councillors determine that Councillor McLaughlin is able to stay and participate. Thank you, Councillor McLaughlin. Before going on, Councillor Haverman, Councillor Learmont, yeah, you got possible conflict?
Sorry about this, but pursuant to section 175E of local government, I wish to inform me that I think I have a real conflict of interest as a Commodore Bundaberg Sailing Club, and I would like to relieve the room.
Thank you, Councillor Learmont. As Councillor Learmont has identified a conflict of interest, a particular conflict of interest in his matter, and for his position in the club that he participates in, he has also indicated that he'll be leaving the room. The matter now is I'll have to get you to leave the room, Councillor Learmont, before the voting. Thanks, Councillor Learmont. Yeah. So, Councillor Learmont has left the room. Councillor Haverman, before you continue, I've just been notified by Councillor Barnes that he may have perceived a real conflict.
Thank you, councillors. Mr Mayor, here we go. Pursuant to section 175E of the Local Government Act 2009, I wish to inform the meeting that I have a perceived conflict of interest in this item. The nature of the conflict of interest is that I am the patron of Bundaberg Little Athletics. And I believe that this doesn't provide a real conflict of interest, and I like to stay in the room with council's blessing.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barnes. So, Councillor Barnes, pursuant to section 175E of the Act, the council has been informed of a real or perceived conflict of interest. Councillor Barnes has not voluntarily left the meeting. The other councillors must now decide whether Councillor Barnes has a real or perceived conflict of interest in this matter. Can I have a show of hands?
Point of order, Mr Chairman.
Sorry.
Would it be wise for Councillor McLaughlin to leave the room and not vote on a same conflict? Well, no, because the matter has been determined by council, and the councillor here is I'll just deal with Councillor Barnes first. So Councillor Barnes is identified as a patron, and I think, I'm not going to preempt it, but I'll just see how councillors deal with that matter, and that will be able to show guidance to other councillors as well, as far as patronage and so forth. So I'll just finish first. So can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine there is a conflict of interest, as Councillor Barnes says, patron of Little Athletics, is it? Begala Little Athletics, yeah. Okay. No. Now the councillors must determine whether Councillor Barnes must leave the meeting and stay away while the matter is voted on, or whether Councillor Barnes may participate in the meeting, including voting on the matter. Can I please have a show of hands for those councillors who determine that Councillor Barnes must leave the meeting? Okay. So those who determine that Councillor Barnes should stay.
Abstain.
The council has determined that Councillor Barnes is able to stay and participate in the vote. So, Councillor Trevor, you have a query in relation to the matter? Yeah.
Out of an abundance of caution.
Yes.
From past experience.
Yeah, keep going.
I wondered whether it was pertinent for another councillor to vote on another councillor's conflict.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Trapp, do you want to clarify that again? Sorry.
It was my understanding of the changes to the Act.
Yep.
That it black and whited the fact that if you have a conflict, you should not vote on another councillor's conflict on the same motion.
That's correct. That is correct, yeah. So to be able to, those that have a conflict in relation to this matter and has been identified, I ask them to abstain from the actual voting process, okay? The voting process isn't in relation to the matter that is on the table, it is in relation to the conflict that is actually brought before council. So, yeah, so you abstained on that one?
Yep.
Yeah, because it was in relation to yourself, councillor Matt.
That's why I made the big dogs.
That's it. So for this one here is, I'll just remind everyone of their types of conflicts, and I just say all those in just basically, well, that motion has been moved, but it will be recorded that the councillors who have already identified the conflict are unable to vote in that manner. The matters that have been moved previously have all been, because of numbers, would be affirmed in the positive. I'll just go for clarification to Mr. CEO.
Just doing the number count, yeah, that still wouldn't make any difference.
It won't make any difference, though. Yeah.
Mr Mayor,
So you're happy with that one? Yeah, councillor
just
Barnes.
apologise to the chair and councillors for not picking that up earlier before the meeting, but it's so diverse.
Yeah, I just say to councillors is we're better off picking it up. If you're in doubt, please out. And I just want to thank people for. I think it's a very healthy process that people are able to then have a process to identify any perceived conflict as we go through the meeting. We have a number of regulations in the beginning, but obviously, you know, there might be other things that as the wording or the debate goes, that other things come up. So I'd rather prefer people erring on the side of caution and putting their hand up early than asking things after a meeting when it's too late. So I just thank everyone in relation to that one. Now that we have identified all the perceived types of conflicts in relation to this, I go back to Councillor Haberman in relation to you've spoken on the matter. Any beg pardon?
I'll put the motion.
You've put the motion, it's been seconded.
Yeah.
You've spoken on the matter. I just ask any other councillors any other queries or to speak against the vote? No. So I now just go Councillor Barnes.
Can I just identify that as the portfolio spokesperson for COVID, that a report be provided to the social and human group and also the financial group, because the community is so reliant on community sports and that in this region. So maybe through the general manager, Gavin, if we just get an update on what's happening with that grant. I don't need an motion.
No, that's right. Yeah, but just way of clarification.
Yeah.
Points, yeah. So now in relation to the motion we have before it is all those in favour, those against, so moved. Thank you, Councillor Haberman. The next 10 items, I'll get Councillor Lemon back. The next 10 items are confidential in nature and pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulations 2012. I now move that the meeting be closed to the public with discussion on the following 10 items to be held in committee. These are items T1 to T10, and I now move that the meeting be closed to the public pursuant to section 275 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to discuss these confidential items. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Haberman. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. We will now suspend the live stream while the confidential items are discussed, and I hope to see everyone back here shortly.
Mr.
Thank
Mayor,
you
I'll
for your
be
patience.
leaving the meeting room for 2 of these items.
All right, so we're back on.
Okay.
So, welcome back everybody into the live streaming in relation to the confidential items discussed today, T1 to T10. The matter has now been moved out of confidential. I now move to item T1. I now move that Council authorises the Chief Executive Officer or his nominated delegate to enter into an infrastructure agreement for DA 322.2014.42367.1 that reduces the charge payable by 50% subject to payment within 30 days of the date of execution of the agreement. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Cooper. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. Next item of business is item T2, and I now move the Council advise the owner of 28 River Road, Ferry Mead, that it does not agree to reduce or waive the infrastructure charges payable for development approval 322.2017.47620.1. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Trevor. All those in favour? Those against? One against, Councillor Haberman. The matter is so moved. The next item of business is item T3. It's a request to vary terms of the Bundaberg Open Development Infrastructure Agreement. I now move that Council, sorry, T3, yep, thank you for removing yourself from the room. So I now move that Council A rescind Part A of Council Resolution 2440 made at the ordinary meeting of Council on the 19th of November 2019, and B, agree to vary the draft Bundaberg Open for Development Infrastructure Agreement for DA 526.2018.68.1 by including the following provisions. 1. Confirm the developer is to construct a 2-metre wide footpath from the intersection of F.E. Walker Street along the new road to link with the existing footpath in Santa Lucia Boulevard. 2. The developer may construct footpath LGIP or LGIP ID P.FP.00443 between QE Street and the new intersection of Santa Lucia Boulevard. And point 3, if the developer constructs LGIP ID P.FP.00443, then Council will provide offsets against trunk infrastructure charges for the actual cost of the works for both footpaths detailed in points 1 and 2. Can I have a seconder, please? There's a seconder, Councillor McPhee. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Barnes against. The motion is moved. I'll wait for Councillor Honour to return. Item T4, I now move that Council enter into arrangement with Hipclip Propriety Limited for the provision of bulk water tags without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 253B of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and B, this arrangement be made for initial period January 2020 to January 2023, inclusive the whole 3 years in brackets. Can I have a seconder, please? The seconder is Councillor Cooper. I'll now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item of business is item T5. I now move that Council enter into an agreement with Mottram Australian Propriety Limited, ABN number 93081861645 for the supply of spares, consumables and services of the MEP space IC units without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235A of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Haberman. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item T6. I now move that Council enter into arrangement with Australia Post for the ongoing provision of agency services with 3 yearly management reviews without first inviting written quotes pursuant to section 235A of the Local Government Regulation 2012. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Barnes. I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item T7.
I declare that interest, Mr.
Thanks, councillors. Yep. Thanks, councillors. Both councillors Honour and Trevor have removed themselves from the room, and I now move that council decline the offer provided on the 21st of April 2020 in relation to item T7. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded is Councillor Bartels. All those in favour? Those against? No, so moved. I'll just wait till the 2 councillors return to the room. Thanks, councillors. Item T8 is in relation to a lease matter. I now move that council accept Max Workout Proprietary Limited as trustees' offer to terminate the lease early on the condition that the bond is to be retained by council. The termination date of the lease, including removal of the tenant's possessions, is the actual 30th of June 2020, and part 2, write off the unpaid rent of the amount of $15,429.32 and any applicable interest. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. I now put the matter to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? I'll just do that again to show of hands. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item of business is item T9. It's in relation to property of Woodgate. I now move that council accept the gift of 27 Theodolite Creek Drive, Woodgate, otherwise known as Lot 16 on RP 117667, and 2, the CEO be authorised to enter into a deed of gift and sign all necessary documentation to complete the gift to council, and 3, the landowner be responsible for any applicable land tax payable prior to the gift to council. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder, Councillor Mitchell. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. Next item is item T10. It's a lease or part of Hughes Road at Bagara. I now move that council apply the exception contained in section 236, part 1, part B, part 2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, and section part 2 of the motion, the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to enter into a 5-year lease to Burnett Mary Regional Group for Natural Resources Management Ltd for part of the Bagara Administration Centre, known as Lot 11 on RP 7268. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconder is Councillor Honour. All those in favour? Those against? So moved. The next item is the actual conclusion of today's meeting. I thank everybody for their participation here today. I thank those that are on live stream as well. This brings to conclusion today's business at our regular council meeting. The next ordinary meeting is due to be held on the 30th of June 2020. in the Civic Centre Summit Room here in Bundaberg. I now close the meeting at, what time, official time we got?
11:18.
Was it 11:18? At 11:18 a.m. and I thank you for your attendance. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.